Welcome. I'm Asa Lannon, the Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Innovaro, and this is our series on innovation for entrepreneurs. That's the second part in the overall series, and this is part G, the seventh part of this particular section, which is all about that magic answer, yes, which is what you've been looking for when you started trying to get funding. We've been through, what do you do to prep? How do you make contact? Getting ready for your meetings, the meeting, dealing with issues, no, which is, a common response. But this is all about yes. This is about moving forward. So, the first thing I say to you is keep calm, right? Don't start partying, don't start fist pumping, but it is a great thing. And what this really means is that, from a funding opportunity of the ones they're looking at right now, you're at the top of the heap, and that's a great thing to be, right? There are a lot of things that immediately happen when you get to that yes, and sometimes these happen while you're getting to yes, before you do that, and there are reasons for that. Key questions that you're going to get are all about valuation, right? How much you're looking for from me, what do I get from an ownership standpoint, what do you expect to do with it? They're going to get questions like, what's your last round of pre-money valuation, i.e. how expensive was this deal the last time, right? When did you raise money? They want to know how long ago you had to raise money. They want to know what the market was like then and the progress you have made. Now, you have to understand that valuation is always relative to the marketplace. It's always relative to the number of possible investors and all those kinds of things. So when you raise money is a very fair question, a valid question, that, right? And then the third one you can run into a lot of times, or what are your expectations on valuation? And the idea is that if you're unreasonable, I'm gone. I'm not in here, right? I will tell you that the first thing to do with that is when you get to answer those questions is to say, we're seeking a realistic valuation, right? Don't state a number. That's not your job. That's the VC's job. They've seen lots of deals. They've seen lots of companies like yours. They've seen them in your stage. They probably know what these deals are going for out there from the other people that are looking at them. Let them tell you what the number should be, right? Don't sound desperate, even if you are. Never let them see you sweat. The minute you do that, I can guarantee you that the amount of money that you receive and the possible valuation will not move in your favor if you sound desperate, if you're sweating, right? You do want to tell them the prices and everything. I've been fortunate enough to be in situations where we've had a choice of people that are going to back us, and assistance and mentoring and the other things that a firm can bring to the table, whether it's introduction to channels, it's a complementary technologies, it's the right partners, are absolutely essential. They're very important, and they can bring those. So you want that to be part of it, right? The thing that's going to happen in the whole process, you're going to get a term sheet, and I always laugh at term sheets because it's it sounds like a very simple little thing. This very simple little thing is lots of pages, and it's fairly complex. There's lots of bits and pieces into it. So that's an important thing. And if you want to take a look at what a term sheet looks like, you can go to the National Venture Capital Association website, the NVCA website, and they actually have a lot of template documents, but the one here you see the link for is actually for a term sheet, right? In the case of term sheets, there'll be some pressure to sign. All term sheets have an expiration date, right? That's normal, right? What's abnormal is if they have a very short expiration date. And the reason I say this is that, you've been talking to these people for a period of time. They didn't make their mind up in 48 hours, but they want to give you 48 hours to make your mind up. Then there's some issues in here. You need to do your diligence. If it's the only game in town, you might want to take it, right? You might not really have a choice. And you remember earlier on we talked about keeping a number of organizations and possible investors at the same place at the same pace, right? These guys are going to know what each other are doing. They're going to know what the investments look like. They've had time to do their due diligence. You need time to do yours. You should have already been started, right? Because I will tell you that once you sign this term sheet, divorce is not an option. And you really, really need to understand that, right? So term sheets are very important. One of the things that comes up in term sheets, very commonly from a funding terms, and I'll recommend a particular book to you. It's called Venture Deals, Be Smarter Than Your Lawyer and Venture Capitalists. If you're smarter than your lawyer, particularly relative to a deal, you got a problem, you didn't get a good enough lawyer. Being smarter than the venture capitalist, unless you are a venture capitalist, I doubt it seriously, right? They do this. It's what they do all the time. But the book will give you a lot of good information give you pointers and help with those kinds of things. So I recommend it, and I have no commercial interest in it, you know, but I like to see people have smarts about them. All right. One of the big issues you're going to run into in term sheets is founder vesting, right? And I'll make a couple of comments on this. I see people all the time that want the founders to come in and be totally vested. They own all their shares. They're all that. And what happens is the companies don't like to do these. They don't like to fund them. The reason for that is that, you know, you've got a founder that's vested in a big block of stock. They decide after 6 or 7 months they really don't want to do that anymore, right? But they've got their stock. And then it's on your back to do all the work, and they are going to reap the reward, you know, because they're there. So most of the vesting terms want 4 years vesting, you know, which helps to keep the stock fresh, right? From your side, you always want to have what they call double trigger vesting in full. And double trigger basically says, you know, you might be acquired. You know, you might be part of a portfolio that's good. The venture firm might decide it's a really good thing to sell you off, right? You know, and you may or may not go with that acquisition. You know, so if you've been working hard and you find your firm's acquired and you're told that your services are no longer needed, then you should get all of your shares vested at that point in time. All of your options should vest. That's a double trigger if you're acquired and fired. All right. The other one is that suppose you're acquired and they want you to stay on, and often that's the case. They're going to want you to stay on. Right? If they don't, there's probably some issues there. You know, and that's fine, but your option should vest over some period of time, you know, preferably 12 months. That says, hey, I'm going to be here long enough for you to pick up on my knowledge and take advantage of me, right? But, you know, I'm not going to stay here 4 more years or 5 more years to do this, right? So that's single trigger vesting. So there's vesting over time, double trigger, and single trigger, and you really need to understand those and deal with them from the standpoint of what's going on in this process. That's really all I have to say about the whole aspect of once you get to yes. I want to thank you for listening, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the next section on innovation for entrepreneurs. Thank you. Goodbye.